right now. All right, folks. Welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us. We are here tonight again on a Thursday night live stream, Disc Golf Central Live. And tonight we are joined by Larry Crouch of ProPull Disc Golf. Thank you so much for joining us, Larry. My name is Tori, and your co-host over there is Craig. And that's us for tonight. And welcome so much. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, Larry. We are so excited to have you.
Hey, thanks very much for having me. Yeah, this is great.
Well, Larry, whenever we have a guest, again, we've been on the stream here on the call for about 10 minutes, having a really good conversation. So hopefully we can replicate that for the people out there on YouTube. But what we always want to start with our guests is just we want to hear your disc golf story. We want to hear how you got involved with disc golf. And when we were talking before, you said in pre-stream that you've been playing since the 80s. So we would love to hear how you discovered disc golf.
Well, I was actually living in Lake Tahoe, and a buddy of mine from Charlotte, I'd lived here all my life, moved out there, and he mailed me a disc. And I was like, "What's this for?" And he said, "It's a golf disc." And at the time, this was in 1986. At the time, there wasn't a course in Lake Tahoe, so there was snow on the ground. So I waited until the spring. I didn't touch it for a couple months. When it got spring, I went out into the fields in Lake Tahoe and started throwing it around. It was pretty cool, but no targets. No, I didn't know. It was just a Frisbee as far as I was concerned. So when I moved back to Charlotte, there's a pole hole course at Latta Park, and so started playing, and it was an XD Ace was the disc. And it's crazy how every single disc was XD, and because it was XD and it was so understable, everybody learned how to throw nothing but hyzers. I mean, my natural throw now is a hyzer because XD plastic back then, if you threw it flat hard, it'd roll over.
Sure.
So, that's my story. And I had 4 kids, so I was able to go out and play in an hour, and it was my time. And after a while, the kids started coming, but I fell in love with it. And the crazy thing about disc golf is I played football for 16 years, and whatever that sensation you get when you hit somebody in football, you get that sensation when you really crush a drive.
Yep.
Same way if you hit softball as hard as you can, when you smack a softball, whatever that sensation is, you get that sensation when you really crush a drive. Yeah. It's bizarre, but and it's hard to describe what that sensation is, but I get it in disc golf, and I love it.
Yeah. I think Craig and I can both relate to that.
For sure.
I was a ball golfer throughout most of my high school career, and when you hit that perfect draw, that 350-yard draw, and it lands dead center cut of the fairway, that's what you're chasing in disc golf. It's just a little bit different.
Yeah. Yep.
That's awesome. We definitely want to hear about your product. Craig and I, we've both been familiar with ProPull for at least a couple years now, and it seems like you're at the point now where there's some real buy-in from some professionals. You guys are sponsoring the Next Gen Disc Golf Tour, which we'll get into here in a little bit. But we want to hear a little bit about the background of the product itself. And how the idea came about, maybe how the process moved from idea to now a production product that you're putting out to folks.
Well, I'd signed up to go play the GBO, and I was going to play Emporia and Lake Opie, or Opie Lake, and those are 2 bomber courses. And I've got a bomber course really close to my house called Frank Lisk, and so I was just wanting something to kind of help increase my disc speed.
Sure.
Before I went out there. I had about a year. So I played football, so we always trained for everything. And I was a cornerback, and I knew that training for speed is different from training for strength and muscle kind of stuff. And so I heard, I mean, it's not a brand new idea. This resistance band connected with a disc. I looked on the internet. I looked everywhere for a product that I could use to do that, and I couldn't find anything. In fact, not until I started doing the patent process did I find something that a guy in Ohio was doing called Snap something. But so I made a prototype, started working out with it. And the crazy thing is, I immediately started noticing my mid-range game improved, where it was a ones, because when you're in the fairway, you don't really do. I mean, you can do an X step, but depending on if you're in the woods, a lot of times you have one step and you gotta let go of it. And that part of my game really, I started throwing my mid ranges on lines through the woods where I hadn't been able to do that before. So that was really why I came up with it, because I was going to play Emporia, I was going to play Opie, and I did, and I played pretty well at Emporia. I finished in the or I was in the chase card after round one, so it was better than I thought I was going to do.
Cool. Yeah, you mentioned that, that this isn't a new idea, but you couldn't find anything anywhere. And a video that you had posted earlier today of Dave Feldberg talking about your product and endorsing it, and it's interesting that he's kind of said the same thing, was, this isn't a new idea. I've been talking about it for years, but nobody would create this thing. And some people came along and tried throughout the process, and it didn't work. And you seem to have, figured it out exactly how, you can pull it through and the disc will rotate perfectly. And I mean, obviously he's endorsing it, so he's a pretty big fan of it.
Yeah. Well, we're actually injection molders, so we made the disc. We have no desire to make a flying disc. This is just that it's got a hole in the center of it. It's not going to fly very well.
Yeah.
But so that helps us. And one of the things that I really wanted to do is keep the price to that of a premium disc.
Yeah.
So for $30, you get a 5-pound band, an 8-pound band. You get a strap for your wrist. It's a safety strap in case you let the disc slip out.
Yeah.
And then there's a strap that goes around a tree. It'll fit around about probably a 14-inch tree.
Okay.
So you can use it outside. And then it's got a door anchor for inside use. Mm-hmm. It's got a carry bag. And so you get all that for $30. And my initial thought was, if you're gonna start practicing putting, you'll go out and buy 5 putters, no problem.
Sure.
Yep. And granted, putting is really important, but for $30, to buy something that might improve all your drivers, all your mid ranges, all your fairway drivers, and so that was really the main goal, was keeping it affordable.
Sure.
And then I really didn't know if people were going to buy it or not, and not until I started getting emails back saying, wow, this thing is really helping. I knew what it had done for me, but I didn't know if it was going to work for everybody else. And as we kind of got it going, without Facebook and without Instagram, there's no way.
Sure.
You can't get the word out. So those other products, had they come out at this time when you had social media, maybe they would have made it. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe they would have improved it or gotten to where we are now. But with social media, we're able to get the word out, and now we've shipped to all 50 states. We've shipped to 18 countries.
Oh, wow.
I got an email yesterday about a Pro-Am tour. Well, it's an 8-event tour up in Ontario area where they've got a warm-up place, and Canada has the same kind of weather that Michigan has, so they have a lot of off-season to work out and train. So it's
awesome.
starting to kind of explode, I guess.
That's awesome. So you mentioned the social media aspect and helping it take off, and I know that you're in the Charlotte area. Have you done? I'm sure you have, but done much selling? Just starting out, going to courses and showing it off to guys and girls.
I have not, and one of the reasons is I don't know. I don't like showing up to like my club event and start selling something.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
So there are probably still a lot of people that don't know that I'm involved with ProPull, at least here in Charlotte. I mean, we've got it at another round. There's a plate again here, and they've got them. So I've gone to the retailers, but no, I hadn't shown up at the events. I gave a couple close to the pins because we had the World AMs in July.
Yeah.
So we sponsored that. I sponsored a hole at Sugar. So that, I tried to kind of keep at arm's length.
Sure.
Pushing my products to the guys in Charlotte.
That makes sense, though. Yeah.
It's so cool that you mentioned another round there in your neck of the woods because Craig actually visited Rock Hill and played Winthrop just with his wife kind of randomly. And I don't want to step on your toes here, Craig, but that was really that was kind of the inspiration behind us wanting to originally start a disc golf store in our region of Central Michigan before I moved down here to Texas. So we're at least Craig is familiar with your neck of the woods and exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. So like I told you before we started going live here, there's hardly any courses within 30 miles of here, and so there's obviously no shops for disc golf. So a lot of my discs come from online or from like a Dick's Sporting Goods or something like that. And so I'd never really seen a disc store. And so when we were down in the area, we were in North Carolina and South Carolina for part of our honeymoon, and we went into another round. I just Googled disc golf stores nearby and happened to stop in there, which I think they've moved to a new store since then.
Yeah, they have. They got it's pretty sweet setup.
Yeah, and the guys that were working that day were awesome. With your purchase, you got to still remember this. They had a mini basket up on the ceiling, and you got to put a
minis up there.
And if you made it, you got
a basket.
Yeah, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah, so, little basket about this big with chains on it, and if you hit it, it comes down like a raffle or something.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Just cool guys there, but not to get too off topic, but yes, they are definitely motivation behind at least my kind of fire for disc golf and really growing the sport beyond Central Michigan. So cool.
Well, it's such a great sport. You get that whatever that sensation is of power, but then it's the most creative sport I've ever played.
Oh, I agree.
You can look at a shot, and when I show people my bag, and you tell them, well, if I throw this hyzer really hard, it'll flip over and glide to the right and then finish straight. Or this one, if I throw it the exact same way, it'll flip all the way over and take a full right-hand turn. Or this one, you can throw it that same way really hard and it'll do an S. And you get up to holes and you get 5 people on the tee and all 5 of them may see a different shot.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And it's phenomenal in that regard.
That's the beautiful thing about this game, really. And we've talked about that in different like review videos and tutorial videos that we've done where, I think people, especially beginners or maybe that beginner who's taken the next step and really feels like they're on the precipice of being able to compete, some of the pitfalls that some of those newer players fall into is they get in the habit of throwing every disc the same way at the same speed. You know, they're throwing everything flat, or they're throwing everything with a little bit of hyzer, and they're throwing it 100% every time. And that, I mean, that you can be effective in that. You can compete that way if you're athletic enough and if you're good enough and consistent enough. But really, you're robbing yourself so much of the complete potential of what disc golf has to offer. You know, you look at ball golf and you can hit a high fade, or you can hit a high draw, you can hit, you know, a punch shot.
But you got to be really good to be able to hit a high draw or a high fade. Whereas in disc golf, the learning curve is not quite so bad. Ball golf,
absolutely.
Ball golf's a different animal.
I agree. I 100% agree, because I know, you know, I played ball golf from the time I could hold a club until all the way through high school, and I didn't pick up disc golf until probably my freshman sophomore year of college, and it went so quick. I learned so much so quick that it captured me. You know, it was that thing where it's like, you see something in a new way, and you see that this is a dynamic game, and it's not just throwing frisbees. It's something that's really unique and has a lot of potential, and that was why I fell in love with the game, for sure.
Well, you know, as varied as disc golf is, I mean, whether, you know, some people, their natural throw is a hyzer. Some people naturally throw it flat. Some people have a natural anhyzer. And depending on your disc speed, you know, somebody says, oh, well, I throw a destroyer. Mm-hmm. Well, how heavy is it? It's 175. Well, what plastic is it? I mean, the weight, I mean, the variations just within one mold is so huge.
Yeah.
And the ProPull, it turns out, when I gave it to Philo, and when I gave it to Felberg and to Kevin Jones, to KJ, Nibo, there's a local guy in Charlotte named Steven Schroeder, who's really one of the best instructors. He's a 1,000 rated player, and all 5 or 6 of them use it differently.
Sure.
Because no two people throw the same way. No two people have the same thought. You listen to Philo, and Philo is talking about the space in front of him and how that's his swing plane. And it reminded me of, like, if it were a keyboard. He's thinking of this parallel line in front of his feet, and he's simply playing that keyboard.
That's a very
where
interesting
he knows
visual.
Exactly where it is. Where Felberg, he's got a different way, and it's really interesting how if you I mean, there's certainly principles that everybody does where you've got to get the disc to the target, and a straight line is the best way to pull it to that target.
Yeah.
But the ProPull seems to work for a variety of different things. You can use it for just the flexibility exercise. The isometric holds are really huge because there's no other way to train fast twitch muscles. So you've got the physical part of it, but then the form and mechanic part of it. You know, we've got I put a 6-week workout on the website because you have to have something. But in reality, you could do variations of all of these workouts where, I mean, you could just continue to do it. You can increase reps, or you can increase resistance. We're coming out with a 20-pound band that will, for everybody that's already gone through it, also for the isometric hold. So you can do an isometric hold at every point through your swing. So because you're using different muscles when you're here versus when you're here. And so you can just move your way all the way through the power pocket. And so a lot of variety. It's hard to tell somebody exactly how to use it because they're going to use it a little differently. It's definitely good to pay attention to these guys. I'm like a kid in the candy shop. All of a sudden, I've got instructional videos coming from Dave Felberg to my computer,
Very
from
cool.
Milo, from Kevin, and it's like, oh man.
Yeah, I'm glad that you said that, because when you go to your website, which is ProPullDiscGolf.com, for anybody that's watching that doesn't know, the first thing that you see is Philo's face, and it's really cool because it's like, I know that guy, and he's got a ProPull, so I need to get one. But you scroll down a little bit, and it talks about how, think acceleration and speed to the target, not strength, because I think the first thing people think when they see this is, okay, this is going to make me stronger and it's going to work all these muscles and I'm going to be able to throw farther. When really, and everything that you just said, that's not really the case. You're training, those muscles more so for the memory and getting on that line rather than working the muscles like you're lifting weights. And even Dave Felberg talked about that in that video that you posted today. So really glad that you brought that up. It's really cool to see some of those pros endorsing this, and
they're great guys. They see something that will help grow the sport, and that's what they want to do. I think everybody is in this to help beginners become advanced. Or wreck and then become advanced. And we've got so many players now, we need a next gen because
100%.
I mean, I can play age protected, so I'll get to play in the Worlds next year as a 60-year-old. So I won't have to just pay my money to Macbeth and to Simon and Eagle and all Kevin and all those guys.
Yeah.
But for AMs, it's a big pool, and part of the fun is competing. Now, granted, you're competing against the course, you're competing against that next throw, but the sport is getting ready to just explode, 100%. and it's hard to figure out where do you put the competition part of it.
Sure.
In the girls' game, it's phenomenal. I went and watched Paige at USDGC, and there's this one tee on number 12. It's 901 feet. I got to it in 2 for the first time this year. Well, I saw her tee off, and her tee shot went right where mine did, and I think she got there too.
Sure.
And it was a bomb.
Yeah.
It's to get to a 900-foot hole in 2 shots.
Oh, that's huge. That's 2 huge crushes in a row.
I was impressed when I did it the first time, and then when I saw her do it, it was like, man, that's impressive.
Yeah, and I think that's a key thing too, is we get in this habit of watching, or new players get in this habit of watching these pros on YouTube or whatever the source is for the tournament, and they see them throw these shots, and they, ho-hum, Simon threw another 600-foot tee shot, and whatever. But in reality, that's 2 of my drives. I mean, it's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So at the Memorial, he threw a roller, and it didn't hit the ground until about 360. And then it rolls another 260 feet.
Insane.
Yeah, it's crazy. But back to the idea of working muscles and thinking that that's what's going to do it. Jason Kruger, who played the Memorial a couple weeks ago, he Instagram messaged me and said, dude, I've only had this thing like 2 weeks, and he shot 1,012 rated round, and he said on some of the holes, and he played an event there in January, and he was 60 feet short on a number of these par 4s, and then when he played at the Memorial, it was about 8 weeks later, but he hadn't had the ProPull but about 3 weeks. He said, I was inside circle 1. And then he said the strangest thing was he said that he was more accurate on his mid-ranges because he didn't have to throw it as hard, which simply means he's pulling along one line, and there's less resistance in one line, and it's more efficient.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was crazy. It's kind of crazy.
That's
crazy.
Awesome. And so, Larry, I heard you say this a while back. Now we've had a really good conversation, and I don't want to. I'm not at all trying to cut it short, but I want to hone in on what I really think that the purpose of the ProPull is. And I made a note of it here. And you said, in your background athletically, training strength versus training speed. And I really think that, if I'm hearing you correctly, the ProPull is about training all the fine muscles that don't really have anything to do with strength, but that really have to do with getting the disc to get to that point of release online as fast as possible, and that's what generates.
Yeah.
That's what generates
one parallel line going to the target. Then not only are you training those muscles that you're using to do that, but you're training them to do that within a rail that is more efficient. So that's why I think sometimes, this guy that at the Memorial, he didn't get stronger in 2 weeks enough to all of a sudden start throwing 40 more feet.
Right.
It was more somehow the mechanics of that. There's some people that will really benefit from the muscle part of it. Anybody that hadn't played a lot, because they're muscles you don't normally use.
Right.
But
in ball golf, we called
it.
In ball golf, we called it grooving your swing in the off season.
Yeah.
You had to keep swinging every day. You had to get out there with the weighted club in the garage or whatever, and you just had to keep swinging because your muscles have to be able to remember exactly what you're doing. And I think that's, to me, the reason I want to get my hands on a ProPull so bad is because I think that in the off season, and even for things like I watched Kevin Jones's video on forehand.
Yeah,
I'm terrible at forehand. I don't have a very good forehand at all. But watching him work through that forehand motion in a slow motion way and bringing that hand across and getting that full extension and sinking his hips and his shoulders up and everything moving in one motion with that resistance, I feel like if I could sit and do 15 minutes a day for a month and work on that forehand and then go out to the course and throw 100 shots forehand, I think that my forehand would be, I'm not going to say it would be a miracle because I don't want to, but it would be very, very much improved.
Yeah.
And I think that's, to me, that's the benefit that I see in the ProPull, and that's the reason I think that so many pros have latched onto it, is because it really does help. You just think about it. I made the comment that Craig and I are not particularly athletic gentlemen, but we both have athletics in our background. We're just 15 years out of high school and aren't in that competitive nature anymore. But we both have athletics in our background, and for guys like us, the fundamentals are really so key, because if we want to compete, we have to be really sound fundamentally. And I think that when it comes to watching videos like what you guys have put out at ProPull and what you've had some of the gentlemen put out, the pros put out, it really does just ingrain those fundamentals, and it doesn't give you any other option than what is correct. You have to do it right. You have to do it.
You almost.
Yeah. And so I think that for anybody out there watching that just wants to get better, that just wants to take their disc golf game to the next level, or somebody who has never touched a disc before but they're interested in seeing what disc golf is all about, the ProPull is either a great place to start or a great place to hone those skills that you already have and really take your game to the next level. And I think that that's something that's obviously a hole in the marketplace that people are looking to fill, and you guys are doing that great.
Yeah.
Hey, one last quick thing before we let you go. So we've touched on this throughout the show, the Next Gen Tour, and kind of your involvement with it. And we've mentioned this guy named Dave Feldberg that some people might not know. But Next Gen Tour, tell us what it is and kind of your involvement with it, how you got started. You talked about Dave sending you videos using your product to your computer. Just kind of overnight this kind of happened, it seems like maybe. But just walk us through that a little bit.
Well, we thanks to Jonathan Poole at Innova, he let us have a table at the USDGC in Rock Hill at Innova East, and that's where I met Dave. And he's been known as one of the top 2 or 3 instructors for a long time. He's got degrees and that kind of thing.
Yep.
And he's had a really sweet professional career that he had a ton of fun doing.
Mm-hmm.
And he realizes that if you're an AM, you don't get to play in the Memorial. You don't get to play in the Waco Open coming up.
Yep.
They're not. I mean, you get club events, but depending on what club you're in, you may be in a club that doesn't hold them very often, or the course maybe you don't get to go play great courses. And so his first thought was, I want AMs to have the experience that the pros are having. So let's do a national AM tour and try to get some grassroots buy-in from local clubs and start having regional qualifiers, and then have a national championship. And so they did that, and they've given 2 cars away. So
wow,
that's amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. And then for the guys that are actually competing for the cars, it's not a minor league for the Pro Tour,
right?
But it should help feed the Pro Tour,
right.
where every year you're going to start hearing about, here's a 13-year-old kid that can throw at 450 feet.
Yeah, we've seen them already.
I know you start to see them, and so this kind of starts to bubble up and become something national. Where they're going to have. I'm not sure how many total events it is. It's going to be a ton of total events, and so what the ProPull, we're the official training device for the Next Gen Tour.
That's awesome.
And so we'll be a part of prizes. So we'll help support the Next Gen team, which is altogether it's like 44 people. Mm-hmm. So really, really excited about being a part of that. It's like you said, it's kind of hadn't heard a whole lot about it unless you were really involved in disc golf, but it's starting to the word's starting to get around, and as local clubs around the country start holding events, and it'd be great to be able to have a state champion for every state, where you actually had a point system where you had a state champion for Michigan, and then so it could really turn into something cool.
Yeah.
In fact, it really already has. They're really there now.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say. It seems like there's so much buy-in already, and it's they've been running events for 2 years, but this year there's already so much interest for people who maybe haven't paid attention to the pro game in a while because of the whole Paul McBeth shakeup, Wysocki going back to Innova, all that. It's gotten people paying attention again for the first time in maybe a couple years. I know that's been the case for Craig and I to some degree. But you look at it, and I think about a product like ProPull, and I think about what the disc golf, the Next Gen Disc Golf Tour is all about, and what I see is this perfect kind of marriage of this is something that's going to elevate the level of skill across the entire country when it comes to disc golfers, because you're giving those amateurs that aren't to that level yet where they can compete with even in the higher level amateur divisions and PDGA sanctioned events, but they really want to compete and they want that extra edge, and they're going to get that competitive experience like an open player would on PDGA sanctioned events. And then you've got things like your tool, the ProPull, and you're looking at all these different professional disc golfers who, like you said, are using it differently, and they're giving you the the videos and the tutorials of how they're using your product in different ways to shape their game and hone their game. And then you're putting that out there for people to see on YouTube. And for somebody who's just getting into disc golf and they're going to look at the next gen tour and they're going to say, hey, maybe that's my avenue. Maybe that's what I want to do. And then they're going to look at the videos that you have on your YouTube and the different places that you've made your content available. And they're going to put all of the things that all these other pros have kind of, stashed away, their knowledge and their experience tied in with your product, and there's going to be some kid who just decides to pick up a ProPull, and he wants to get involved in the next gen disc golf tour, and he puts all the things from Kevin Jones and Philo and Dave Feldberg together, and he just becomes the next the next superstar. And I think that's something that we're going to see over the next half a decade or so, and that's really exciting.
Yeah, it's really here. Yeah, they're already out there. You see video of them periodically. Will Schuster will put on Disc Golf Instruction. He'll have a video of here's somebody I really like. He's 13 years old.
He mentioned maybe some more training devices coming from you sometime soon. Is that a possibility?
Yeah. I mean, and kind of the same way that I came up with this. I've been playing for 30 years, and the things that disc golfers do to try to get better, how do we make those available where it makes sense? Does it make sense to have, you can go and buy a throwing net, but does it make sense to have one place where you can get it where it's relatively inexpensive, and then not just throwing into a net? You got to have a purpose for it. You got to have a particular way to make sure you're not grooving the wrong thing.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
There's some other pretty interesting devices that we're investigating right now to see if they may help the throw.
Awesome.
So, yeah, our intention is to. What we want is we want all the retail disc golf stores to have, or the online stores to have a training tab, where a lot of them actually have a training tab, and you click on it, and there's nothing there because there are none.
Sure.
Yep.
And I mean that was one of the reasons I decided to go forward with this thing. Is I play ball golf. I mean, there are 1,000 things, gadgets that you can buy, and some of them are gadgets and don't work, but some of them actually work.
Yeah,
for sure.
And for every gadget, there's guys paying thousands of dollars for lessons too. On top of that, in the ball golf world.
Anyway. So I mean, the need is there. The number of players is there. It's more fun to play better. So
absolutely,
if you can get better, then it's more fun.
Yeah.
Birdies are more fun than pars, and pars are more fun than bogeys.
Oh, preaching to the choir here. Hey, cool. Anything else? Where can we find you at to pick up a ProPull? Where can people follow you or find you at online?
I mean, my intention initially was that we would just sell them off of our site. I'm really wanting to move. I'm pressing forward. We're going to stop selling them off of our site, and so once we do that, then there'll be a list of online retailers, local retailers. So we're going to make sure that everybody has access, but I want to drive sales to our retail partners. So
okay,
that's awesome.
Yeah,
that's really cool.
And
that's
then,
definitely a community-focused thing. That's much respect for that. That's really cool.
Yeah. So we will we'll link the video that you shared today. We've already posted that on Instagram as well, but we'll link that in the description here as well, and help to share that around as well.
Yeah.
So now all I need is your ship to addresses, and I'll get your ProPulls out tomorrow.
Wow.
Awesome.
Thank you so much. We'll reconnect on Instagram. That was that's not something we expected, but we appreciate that a lot.
Very cool.
Sweet.
Cool. Well,
awesome.
Thank you again so much, Larry. We went longer than we've ever had a guest on before, but I think this was an incredibly productive and very fun discussion. We've talked about pretty much everything that there is to cover. So thanks again so much for joining us. We'd love to have you on again sometime, maybe in a couple of months. We'll circle back maybe at the end of the season.
Some of those other training tools start coming out, and you can talk about them a little more. We'd love to have you on to promote those.
Cool.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Larry. You guys, you have a good night, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Cool. See y'all.
See you.
See you, Larry.
Man, another great interview. That guy, that guy's like locked in. I feel like
he knows what he's doing.
He knows exactly what he's doing. He knows the market. He knows. I mean, he is like just locked into the scene. I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, more so on our conversation though. That's just disc golf right there. I mean, you and I have talked about it just on our own, but we've started this. I mean, at the beginning of the year, and we have met some pretty awesome people already in just the month and a half, 2 months that we've been doing this. Yep. And add Larry to the list because he is definitely a guy that we want to keep in contact with and help promote because he's got some awesome things that he's doing.
Seriously, I don't think that we've had one person so far on the stream who's not just that genuine individual who wants to see the sport develop. You know, the fire in their bellies is not just for competition, not just for having something to do athletically outdoors, which is, those are two things that we identify with, but it's really that underlying thing of how can the sport just explode, and to see that in everybody that we've talked to so far is so encouraging and so exciting.
Yeah, it's been crazy so far.
Yeah, and it's just going to get crazier. Hopefully, hopefully in the next couple of months or weeks we'll have some more cool news to share with people. But for right now, we got one piece of news that's less exciting, but just a little bit more you and me, kind of our journey with disc golf. But I guess maybe that's kind of a teaser. We'll get to that later. Because first, I want you to recap your March Mush up there, presented by Discraft. I'm gonna switch this to your scorecard here.
Oh,
you're gonna be a little delayed to pull that up, but I think I actually only have one round. I don't know if you.
I just sent you two new ones. I don't know if that helps. The higher one is the first round, if that helps any. But yeah, so the March Mush, it was not very mushy. Well, the second round it was, but first round, man, it was cold. It was, check-in started at 7:15 in the morning. We're right there on a lake. There's swirling winds.
Where was it at? Tell people where it was at first.
I was in Langsburg, Michigan, at Sleepy Hollow State Park.
So that's about, 20, 30 minutes north of Lansing, state capital?
Maybe not even that far.
Okay.
Somewhere right in there. Awesome course. Really, really fun event. Looked at last year's scores going into this weekend just to see, what guys shot. Looked at the comments, and it was like 60 degrees and sunny last year for it. And this year it was like, I don't know, might have gotten into the 30s, which is high for what we've been having, but there was like 20-mile-an-hour winds all day, and it was just swirling different directions, and it was cold. It was luckily they got out this past week and salted the tee pads, and so it was clear, but there were some big hills that were pretty tough to get up and get down without falling and making a fool of yourself. And then, after that many guys are walking through it and mushing it all up, second round going down those hills, it was just slick and muddy, and it was crazy, but it was a blast. I learned a ton about my game, met some really cool people, learned some new techniques, new grips, just things that are going to better me down the stretch.
Yeah. So on your personal Instagram, you had some goals going into the weekend. You want to recap what those were for us, and maybe tell us how you did meeting those goals?
Yeah, you're throwing me for a loop here. I wasn't expecting this, but
can't remember what your goals were.
Nothing special. We've talked numerous times about the only other tournament I've played. I went into it with just unrealistic expectations that I was going to win it, and had some guys there that I really wanted to beat, yourself being one of them. I just really put a lot of pressure on myself, and my wife was my caddy. We were newly married and almost quickly married because it's not very nice to her that day, but just kind of lost my cool and got outside of my game and let other things impact me. And so this time I knew I was going into it. It was a B tier tournament. Knew I was going to be playing with some pretty good opponents, and knew realistically I'm not going to win. Let's just go have fun. And so I set some goals for myself. One was being warmed up. Just recently started doing the Disc Golf Strong app and routine, and just learning some crazy stretches that I would have never thought would come into play, like stretching your ankles, because those are kind of the base of you, and if those are not moving well, then your legs aren't moving well, your knees aren't moving well, and everything on up. But so being warmed up was number one. Number two was visualizing the shot all the way through. A lot of times it's easy, like on the tee pad, you just look down the fairway, okay, I want to hit that line, and then you go into your throw. But I really put a focus on seeing the disc all the way out of my hand and the flight path and all the way down to the ground, which is a tip that I got one time. So
got that. He sounds like our kind of guy. Hashtag M3 for life.
Yeah, but he actually is pretty good, I think. I don't know what division he plays, but him and his son put out some cool content. Check them out if you're on YouTube if you're watching this, but check them out. Goal 3, be prepared to scramble. Like I said, it was icy, it was windy, conditions were not good. I knew tee shots were going to get wild, and being able to not get off the tee but still save a par, at worst bogey. That was my goal, which I felt I did pretty good. My higher scoring holes were other mental breakdowns and not something that, I got off the fairway and couldn't get back. This course is in the woods. It's got some heather or whatever. It's real easy to get off the fairway and not be able to get back, but scrambled well. Fourth one was stay in my game. Don't worry about other opponents. Like I said, the first time really got into that. And the last one, just stay loose and have fun, which I had fun. I had a blast in this tournament. Staying loose was a tough thing to do, not necessarily like in the aspect of stretching and not being ready, but we hit some backups, which you're going to do every tournament, and just kind of how you handle that is maybe how you're going to end up scoring. And for me, it directly impacted my scores. I don't know if you've got...
Yeah, I've got it pulled up here.
You have the scorecard too.
Yeah,
so
it's your 6 over round. That was round 1, right?
This is round 2.
Round 2? Okay.
Round 2. But kind of the same story on round 1. I started on hole 12. So you can see I strung together some pars.
Yeah.
Just kind of had a mental breakdown on 16. Didn't get off the tee clean. Had to scramble, saved bogey. 18, kind of the same story. Hole 1, I missed about a 4-foot putt that the guy in my group was literally right next to my disc, and he went first and clanged it off the front of the basket. And I was like, okay, like in my head, not laughing at him, but I was like, all right, how did he miss this? Like, this is kind of dumb. I kept my bag on, which was my first mistake, and I just picked it up and tossed it, and it got caught on my hand. We all know those putts, and just completely airballed the 4 or 5 foot putt, and just couldn't do anything but laugh, because it was like, man, I'm actually playing good, and then I go and do that.
Yeah.
And by good, I mean I'm doing good. There's 25, 30 mile an hour winds, and it's icy, and I was beating everybody in my group by a lot at that point. So I go and do that, and then I rattle off 2 pars and a birdie, which round 1 I birdied number 4 as well. That was a good hole for me on the day. And then we start hitting them back up, and I just mentally kind of check out, and not like joking around with guys on the tee, but I'm just listening to the conversation. I'm not really focused on
You're not locked
what
in.
I'm doing. Yeah. And so I get up to the tee, and I don't remember exactly on each hole, but either threw a bad tee shot or a second shot. But identical scores 5 through 8 on round 1 and round 2, because hole 8 is this big hook to the right uphill, and it kind of slows down, and then hole number 9 goes out onto a peninsula, and so it takes a lot of time.
Woods too, right?
through some woods, down a hill.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Hole 9 and hole 8, it backs up all the time on those holes, and so it backs up all the way. And so starting on hole 5, you hit the backup, and that's just kind of when things start going south for me, because I'm towards the end of my round. I'm ending on hole 11, so I'm tired at that point. You play 12 through 18, and then you see there's 3 alternate holes as well, which those were short, easy alternate holes that
But still, it's 21 holes versus 18.
It is.
It's mental, even in that.
Yeah, and it's cold, it's icy. Like I said, there's just a lot of things to check out, and so you're walking up and down hills. I'm tired. I'm a big guy. I'm drained at that point, and so really, when I look at my scorecards, it kind of ticks me off on the weekend, because it's like holes 5 through 8. Without those holes, I place a lot higher than I did. I mean, I placed a lot better than I did the first tournament, so I'm happy with it. I got a free disc out of it. I'm happy with it. But if it weren't for those few holes where I mentally wasn't prepared, physically wasn't prepared, I would have shot a lot better, and I would have placed a lot higher.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. No, I mean, I hear you talk about this, and it seems like, even not even tournament rounds, but even just casual rounds that I play where I'm really trying to focus in, and I'm trying to score. I'm trying to do something that I'm trying to compete with myself more than anything else. And I look at that kind of card, and I think about, I played yesterday at my local course, and I had a great front 13 holes, and then I went double, birdie, par bogey, and something like that. I think that's 5. Yeah, and it was it was not. It ended up being less than it could have been. And I got a tournament coming up this weekend down here. I'm playing at the Oak Meadow Amateur Championship here in Cyprus. So we're kind of in the same mindset. We're preparing for these tournaments where we're not expecting to go out and be world beaters. We're not expecting to go out and take the division that we're competing in, but we are expecting to have fun and compete with ourselves and play the best golf we can. And in our conversation, and we're going to be really candid with our viewers here, one of the things that we've kind of determined is that we can't be the best disc golfers that we can be without being in at least better shape. And maybe saying the best shape we can be, maybe that's a little bit too ambitious, but we could certainly both be in better shape. And we talked about that a little bit with Larry, just maybe pre-stream, maybe we touched on it during the stream, but
I think so.
Just the fitness side of things, and how does disc golf play a role in our fitness, and how is it going to play a larger role in our fitness, and maybe even have our fitness goals be more centered to how do I get better as a disc golfer. And we've talked about this for a couple of weeks now, and we're talking about whether or not we wanted to put it on the stream, whether or not we wanted to do Instagram only, how we wanted to go about this, but we pretty much just decided we got to do it, if for no other reason than we're going to keep each other accountable every week to how this is going to go. But disc golf for fitness, that's something we're going to look at over probably, I think, from now until the Maple Valley Open or whatever. What is it called? Maple Hill Open at the end of the pro season up there in Vermont. I couldn't even remember. Whichever one Steve Dodge runs. Nobody likes it anymore because it's Disc Golf Pro Tour tournament.
Yeah, everybody hates on it, but
everybody will be there still.
Yeah, I don't, we're not saying this because we want to become a bodybuilder page or anything like that. We're clearly not going to be doing that. We just simply both want to live better lives for ourselves, for our wives, for our families, and be able to enjoy working out, if you can call it that, getting to go play disc and, going on walks and eating better and whatever. Mm-hmm. It all kind of comes together. And I mentioned the Disc Golf Strong routine that I've started doing and just being able to stretch. I honestly have not stretched since probably high school, which was a long, long time ago. And, I reached out, or I posted something on Instagram about not doing anything since high school athletics, and how Disc Golf Strong has really already started helping me. And Seth Muncie, the guy that started Disc Golf Strong and is the face of it, and he reached back out and was like, hey, so glad that you're doing this, let me know how it goes. And send them a message back, whatever I said. But there's some really cool things. If you haven't checked it out, check it out. Even just for the tournament, being able to stretch beforehand and knowing what things are going to open up my back and open up my knees and my hips and get everything oiled up so that I don't just go up to the first tee. And it really worked. The first tee, all 3 guys in my group chucked it, and all 3 of them just started shaking their arms. They were holding their elbows, whatever, and I felt great. My shot was not the best, but, it worked out, and I felt great. I definitely felt sore afterwards. Definitely was sore for a day or 2. But anytime you don't have great shoes and you're walking that many holes, you're going to be good. But stretching wise, I felt great.
Yeah, and you actually told me about Disc Golf Strong. This was a while ago now. I don't think it really had even blown up, with some of the other people, some of the other pros on social media. But you told me about it, and I downloaded it and I looked at it a little bit. But honestly, I haven't really poked around in it a whole lot. But I basically, as we've been talking, I know I've kind of formulated, okay, here's beyond that, just kind of using Disc Golf Strong, using playing rounds and supplementing that with some cardio in the gym. And then hopefully maybe a ProPull here too, I guess.
Yeah.
And some kettlebells and stuff like that. My plan right now is to do 2 weeks or 2 days per week of 2-a-days. So what that means for me is getting up a little bit earlier in the morning. I got to leave for work probably about 6:15, 6:30 in the morning. And I don't get home normally until about 4:30. And if I want to play around, sometimes I can make it. I can manage being back in the neighborhood for around 4. But generally, I'm saying from 6:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. I'm at work or I'm commuting. So what I've kind of decided is that 2 days out of every week, and that's looking like it's probably going to be Wednesday, Thursday, back to back. I'm going to get up at about 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm going to go and hit the elliptical for about a half hour in the morning. Then I'm going to take a shower, get dressed, go to work. And then after work, Wednesday, I'm probably going to go play around. And then Thursday, I'm going to play leagues. Leagues are starting back up again now that daylight savings time is gone by. And then every other day, I'm either going to, probably Mondays, I'll play around. Tuesdays, I'll do the elliptical before the stream here. And then Fridays, I'll probably play around too. And then, obviously on the weekends, I'm hoping to be playing tournaments or playing around at the very least. And if not, I'd like to at least do something that's got me up and moving and doing some form of bodily movement every single day. But in addition to that, they say everybody has their vices, and mine is 100% carbohydrates. If I could entirely subsist on Flamin' Hot Cheetos and Buffalo Chicken Rollers from Circle K and be skinny, I think I would.
It's really true.
So I got to cut that stuff out, and my wife and I have been doing a pretty good job here. Shauna and I have been doing a pretty good job probably about the last 3 weeks of eating keto dinners. So we eat just protein, vegetable, and that's all we have for dinner. The challenge is going to be that breakfast time, getting my metabolism kicked up first thing in the morning with something that's not high in carbs, something that's high in protein, keeps me fueled up, not feeling super hungry. Because when I get hungry, that's when it's too easy just to go next door, to the Circle K at work and go get a snack. So, lunches are going to probably be high protein, lots of vegetables. But it's definitely going to be one of those things that takes a little bit of work. Last year, in about 8 months, I lost about 60 pounds. 60 pounds plus what you got here. I was one large feller. But I made some good progress, and I was in the gym pretty much every day with my wife, and she hit her goal weight, and I did not. And then we moved to Texas, and things have just not kind of been clicking ever since then. But getting back on that horse and getting back into that dedication of just being diligent with what I want to do and the goals I want to see. And then part of how that ties into this is, how does that affect my golf game? And right now, my average score at my local course is about 200 par for an 18-hole round, and I would love to see that to get to about 600 par. So that's my goal in terms of direct correlation to my golf game. So that's me. What are you?
Yeah, I don't know that I have a written out plan or anything right now. Obviously, life's a little different for me with a kid here. I mean, literally any second, I could that door behind me could open and my wife could be on here live saying it's go time.
That would be awesome.
So I don't really know what the next few weeks, few months are going to look like, but I can tell you that 100% it starts with this, and specifically the cup that it comes in here. Love me some Taco Bell.
Amen, brother.
And some of you might be saying, why is that Pepsi and not Baja Blast? It's Taco Bell. Well, that's because I have a 12-pack of Baja Blast cans in my fridge right now. Man, I'm a fat kid. And it honestly, it all starts with pop for me. And soda. Sorry if you are down south.
Soda. Yeah, down
here in Michigan, when we call it pop. And
it's called pop. That's what it's called.
It is what it is. But for me, that's where it starts. If I cut that out and I tell myself I'm going to drink, a gallon of water a day or whatever, which isn't that much for me because I love just drinking something. Mm-hmm. It could be a gallon of beer. It could be a gallon of Baja Blast. It could be a gallon of water. It doesn't matter. If I have my water bottle with me and it's full of water, I'm drinking that, mm-hmm. and that keeps me from being hungry. It keeps me from ultimately drinking pop, which the sugar then makes me hungry and I go crazy.
And more dehydrated too.
Yes, and if I could, honestly, I've tried so many times to cut it out. The longest that I've ever gone is 20 days, and I was doing great, and then I just fell off the wagon for no reason, and literally, like, the next day I was having, like, 5 a day again, and it's bad, but any fad diet, you name it, I've done it. I've lost 80 pounds, I've lost 100 pounds, I've gained it back plus a lot. I mean, my weight has literally just done that, and I've got a kid on the way, and it's time to, ultimately, that's what it is for me, is it's time to get serious about this and get it figured out. But in that, how can I tie disc golf in? Because disc golf is something that, I look at someone like Larry, who's a lot older than me, and he's out there playing all the time and making a difference in the disc golf world still. And he's not too old like in some other sports, like basketball. There's a lot of guys that still think they've got it, and they don't have it anymore. But there's a lot. There's a lot of old disc golfers that are still really good, that are better than me.
Yeah.
And so I look at this game as something that I can do for a long time and pass on to my kids and go do with my wife and my family. And so how can I tie those two together? Right now, I'm going to do the best I can. Like I said earlier in the stream, I don't have any courses within really 20 miles probably, but I'm going to do the best I can to at least get out there a few times. Right now, the closest one I'm shooting about, I don't know, probably right now 5 over is probably the best. It's a little bit longer course than I think what you are playing. You can attest
my local
that.
course is a shorty for sure.
Right. So this one's a little longer. I'm not the greatest disc golfer, so +5 is about where I'm coming in at every time. I'd like to get that down around even or under if I could. There's a few holes that are kind of my enemies, and I seem to get a lot of shots, a lot of strokes on those. So eliminate those, but ultimately, if I'm in better shape and I get to those holes that are later in the round, I should be in better mental shape, better physical shape. I should be able to attack them with everything that I had on hole 1. So ultimately, that's what it comes down to for me. Cutting out the pop and just really, I work from home a lot of the day, and so there's a lot of food just readily available. And even though I work at home, there's still times that Taco Bell finds its way to my lunch menu, which is ridiculous. But
no, dude, I know the struggle, man. I think a lot of people. It's not just I don't think either one of us have any problem calling ourselves fat kids, but it's kind of the it's the bane of the working person these days. It's just so easy to go run next door and get the fast food and eat the stuff that's not good for you, and then also on the other side of that, not be active enough to make up for it. I mean, you can only eat so many 1,000+ calorie lunches and sit on the couch before paying the price for it. So. But I think, what you said for me as well, I'm married for a couple years. We'll be starting a family here before too long, certainly. And it's just all about that stamina for the disc golf game and being able to be stronger and more consistent, but then also just being healthier, being around, living a long and healthy life.
Yeah.
And that's what it comes down to, I think, for both of us. And the role that disc golf plays in that for us, I think, is just the motivation factor and keeping that. So many people lose motivation because they don't want to just work just for that next pound that they lose or next, pant size down that they go. That gets so difficult to be able to see consistent improvement, outside of just weight loss, but also, in a golf game. That's something that keeps us both motivated. So
yeah, I think that there's a lot of people out there that either have gone through this or are going through this, that feel free to reach out and give us any pointers along the way. We're definitely open to being open about it and see where this thing goes. Hopefully here in the next few months we will be able to report positive results and not
a couple skinny winners
for a week. And and for me, it's not even I'm looking to drop. I mean, obviously,
old man, we're pushing 30.
We are. I popped. This is one of the first times. It might be the first time, but before the tournament on Saturday, I popped a couple Advil or whatever, Tylenol, whatever it was. I don't even know what it was, but popped those to not feel sore. And then after the second round, I was hurting, popped another 2. I'm like, okay, I'm going to be good for a little while. But it's like, holy cow, I'm getting old that I've got to do this. So anyway.
That's where we're at, to kind of round out that segment. That's where we're at. We're looking to to just better ourselves, and we think a lot of people out there can probably relate, just being in better health and correlating that with better disc golf. So that's all we're looking for. We're not looking to, it to be the next, social media sensations or anything, because if I've learned anything about battling, weight loss, like I said, it took me like a year to lose 60 pounds, and I've done a decent job keeping it off. But before that, it was just kind of one of these steady climbs of gaining weight. I didn't have the up and down like you talked about, but it was just like constantly just putting on the pounds. And then finally it kind of clicked that, things need to change, and I was able to do good things and keep it off now in the meantime. But I'm ready to kick it in again and bust through that plateau. But
yeah.
Like we said, we're doing it for us more than anything else, and if people want to follow along, that's great. Maybe we can inspire some people. But to close out the show here, we got a guest next week coming up, Heather Wyatt. She is a just released today, Innova Rockstar team member. They've got a couple content creators that are out there in social media, and she's one of them. So we're excited to have her on the show. She's local here to Southeast Texas. And she's doing great stuff, and so she will be on the show next week. But as of tomorrow, we are announcing the first ever Disc Golf Central podcast disc giveaway. Look at these things. Not actually all that super exciting. We got a brand new crank. It's a max weight Z crank. It's not like even a first run or anything. But then we do have this Carbach. I get made fun of for how I say it. Carbach Weekend Warrior. This is a DX Wombat 3. It's just a wall hanger disc. If somebody wants to throw, I don't know of anybody who loves the Wombat 3, but I got this at the tournament I played the other week. So we're going to release a giveaway on our Instagram tomorrow, so look for details for that, and we will be announcing the winner for that giveaway next week on the stream. So I think that's about it. Craig, you got anything else?
Cool. No, I'm good.
All right, man.
Good time.
Well, thank you. If you're still here after over an hour and 10 minutes, thank you very much for joining us. Go ahead and go follow us on Instagram. I changed the name down
got it right this time, huh?
Yeah, I got it right this time. It's not at DG Central. It's actually what it really is, which is at Disc Golf Central _. Send us an email at dgcentralpodcast@gmail.com. Follow myself. Follow Craig. Man, it's all backwards. Follow Craig.
I think you got it. And looks good to me.
Yeah, and we will see you guys next week on the stream. Thanks for joining us, everybody. See you later.
Cool. Thanks, guys.